find out what John Wesley thought about money and about being rich. So let's start with an interesting story. While he was at Oxford, Wesley had an interesting incident. A chambermaid came to his door on a cold winter day and he noticed she was only wearing a thin linen gown. So he reached into his pocket to give her money so she could buy a coat, but realized he didn't have enough money. And the reason he didn't have enough money is because he just finished paying for a picture he decorated in his room. So this convicted Wesley to no end. He was convinced that the Lord was not pleased with the way that he spent his money that day. He asked himself, "Will thy master say, 'Well done, good and faithful steward'? Thou hast adorned thy walls with money which might have screened this poor creature from the cold. O justice, O mercy, are not these pictures the blood of this poor maid?" And since then, Wesley limited his expenses so that he would always have more than enough money to give to the poor. He records that one year, his income was about 30 pounds and his living expense was about 28 pounds. So he had 2 pounds to give away. The next year, his income doubled, but he still managed to live off of the same 28 pounds, so he had 32 pounds to give away to the poor. The year after that, his income tripled to 90 pounds. Then after that year, 120. Through this time of blessing, he never raised his expenses. Wesley believed that Christians should not only give money to the church, but also give away all income that you didn't need to the poor. And he lived this out for the rest of his life, even when his income was in the thousands. Oh, and an interesting note here is that in 1776, the English tax commissioners inspected his returns and wrote this: "We cannot doubt but you have plate for which you have hitherto neglected to make an entry." So this basically means a man of Wesley's stature should have some silver plate hidden somewhere in the house, right? I mean, they were accusing him of failing to pay taxes on his missing fortune. So Wesley wrote them back saying this: "I have 2 silver spoons at London and 2 at Bristol. This is all the plate I have at present, and I shall not buy any more while so many around me want bread." So you could tell John Wesley, his heart was truly for the poor. So regarding money, John Wesley is known for saying this: gain all you can. He believed that money, in its core essence, was something that is good. He stated, "In the hands of God's children, it is food for the hungry, drink for the thirsty, raiment for the naked. It gives to the traveler and to the stranger where to lay his head. By it we may supply the place of a husband to the wife, and of the father to the fatherless. We may be a defense for the oppressed, a means of health to the sick, of ease to them that are in pain. It may be as eyes to the blind, as feet to the lame, yea, a lifter up from the gates of death." So it makes sense that Wesley said, gain all you can. But on top of this, Wesley added, save all you can. He urged people not to spend money merely to gratify desires of the eye and the flesh and the pride of life. He believed that we should only buy things that are necessary, so we won't waste money and won't increase our desires. You see, Wesley knew that the more we had, the more we desired, and thus it creates this cycle of buying and then wanting more, then buying, then wanting more. So we have gain all you can, save all you can, and Wesley had a third rule, which is give all you can. He believed that giving should always start with giving to the church, but it shouldn't stop there. The core belief behind this is that in the Old Testament, 1/10 of our things belong to God. But in the New Testament, Jesus dying on the cross, 100% of us now belongs to God. So we should give as He would want us to give. So after giving to the church, if you sense God wanting to use your income to buy a cold lady a coat, we are obliged to do so. But at the same time, after giving to the church, if you feel like God is telling you to spend the money for a family vacation, you need to do that also. Wesley believed that if you consider yourself to be rich, then you had an obligation, like a calling, to take care of the people who had less than you. So the question is, who is considered to be rich? Well, according to a sermon called On Riches, Wesley argued that if you had more than enough money to purchase food, clothes, pay off your debts, care for children, run a business, and care for your lodging, then you are considered to be rich. He warned about being in possession of too much riches because he said that it darkened our faith. And by darken our faith, he means that it dampens our humility. It takes away our meekness, the readiness to submit to other people. He even states that it thins out our patience. There's a lot of temptation that's associated with being rich. He even mentions that atheism and idolatry can be traced back to having too much. He calls these temptations a poison for the soul, temptation to self-will, fretfulness, and peevishness. Further, Wesley preached a sermon about Jesus' Sermon on the Mount of Matthew chapter 6, verse 19, where he says, "Do not lay for yourselves treasures on earth." He warned about how our eyes should have a single focus, and that focus are the things of God. He stated that riches can pull our eyes off of that singular focus. He says this, "We see there is no medium between a single and an evil eye. If the eye be not single, then it is evil. If the intention in whatever we do be not singly to God, if we seek anything else, then our mind and conscience are defiled." So while Wesley is a huge proponent for money, he loves that money can be used to take care of the poor and help the people around us. He also warns us that the love of money is evil. It takes our focus away from the things of God. In 1744, Wesley wrote this, "When I die, if I leave behind me 10 pounds, you and all mankind can bear witness against me that I have lived and died a thief and a robber." He's basically saying if he died with a lot of money in his possession, that he didn't give it away to the people who needed it, then he has failed. Well, when he died in 1791, the only money that's mentioned in his will was the miscellaneous coins to be found in his pockets and dresser drawers. I mean, most of the 30,000 pounds he had gained in his entire life, well, he gave them away. As Wesley said, "I cannot help leave my books behind me whenever God calls me hence. But in every other respect, my own hands will be my executors." To his final breath, John Wesley lived up to his philosophy of how money should be used.